Falafel and good evening. This is our BCN News Bulletin. An official response from the Health Department regarding the nationwide alert of the gastroenteritis virus last week is positive. According to the Director of Health, Manila Nosa, those who were affected by the virus have recovered, with most of the visitors departing last Friday. The locally suspected cases have also been treated and sent home. However, the Health Department will continue to monitor the situation that is now under control. Cabinet has approved the reinstatement of 4 public service entitlements that include height allowances, overtime for emergency allowances, electoral grant, and higher duties allowances. According to the Commission, the height allowance only applies to those who work in areas that are 8 meters and more above ground. As for overtime for emergencies, this has also raised questions over what could be defined as an emergency. But these are matters that the Niue Public Service Commission has already considered, especially concerning essential services. A circular was sent to the public service this week by government's employing body, the Niue Public Service Commission. The Commission says that a number of allowances entitlements were suspended in January of 2002, but there are some allowances that have been considered and paid out based on the Niue Public Service Commission and Cabinet's consideration. However, this week a number of senior staff were quick to pick up on the circular, and queries flowed in for considerations to reinstate other allowances. The Commission have advised departments who would like to review or have other types of allowances to be considered by the Commission to follow the proper procedures. These are to be sent in the form of an official letter of request with justification for support that the Commission can then forward to Cabinet for consideration. In addition, the Commission also reminded heads of departments of the proper procedures that should be followed in terms of disciplinary proceedings and action against any public service employee, especially if it will bring the service into disrepute and affect the employee's work, conduct, behavior, and attitude. The Commission says this has been prompted as it appears that the processes have been overlooked. Any disciplinary measures or incidents involving public servants should be reported to the Niue Public Service Commission. In a joint communique, Niue has signed diplomatic relations with 2 neighboring countries at last week's Polynesian Leaders Group meeting in Auckland. Niue forged diplomatic relations with Cook Islands and the independent state of Samoa. Another agreement from the conclusion of the meeting is that each member country will take the lead annually as the chair of the PLG. From the discussions last week, the leaders admit that group has not been as aggressive in the development, but that does not mean that they are asleep, says Prime Minister of Cook Islands, Henry Puna. Unlike their Melanesian counterparts, the Melanesian Spearhead Group, PLG is focusing on involving all cultures, heritage among a few of their objectives. Prime Minister Puna handed over the chair of the Polynesian Leaders Group to the President of French Polynesia, Gaston Floss, for the next 12 months. Niue is reported to be the next chair the following 12 months, but that has yet to be officially announced by government. There is still confusion whether Niue will be represented at the Miss South Pacific pageant in the Solomon Islands. Reports from New Zealand is that the second runner-up in this year's Miss Niue pageant, Eden Tapuosi, has handed her crown to the first runner-up in the Miss Niue Aotearoa as her reign completes. The first runner-up in the Miss Niue pageant, Michelle Marsh, has previously made her statement. She will take her rightful place representing Niue in next year's Miss South Pacific. Miss Niue's pageant organizers have not been able to confirm whether Niue will be represented at the competition this year. As of yet, no official statement has been received as to the decision. We will bring you more on this news story in our future news bulletin. The 44th Pacific Island Forum Leaders Meeting opened yesterday in Majuro, Marshall Islands, with the theme Marshalling the Pacific Response to the Climate Change Challenge. Leaders from all Pacific Islands, with the exceptions of Australia, Fiji and Vanuatu, embarked on the Marshall Islands to begin the official dialogues of leaders, as well as donor partners and bilateral countries. The continuing calls by the Pacific to the global community for more focus on the climate change challenge will dominate the discussions as some of the most vulnerable climate-affected islands persist in the hope that accelerated assistance will soon address their issues. Leaders are also considering a major declaration on climate change following this week's meeting. Niue's Premier Toke Talangi travelled to the Pacific Island Forum leaders meeting over the weekend with New Zealand leader Prime Minister John Key. The small island developing states held their meeting yesterday prior to the opening of the main meeting. We will bring you more on the Pacific Island Forum meeting in our future news bulletins. Scores of people gathered for the opening ceremony of the Pacific Mini Games held in Wallace and Futuna this week. Danny Nimani was Niue's flag bearer at the opening, representing Niue's smallest contingent yet, with only 2 athletes and chef de mission Alan Tano. The Pacific Mini Games is a multicultural competition that brings together 22 islands for 2 weeks of sports competition. The 8 selected sports that will be hosted are athletics, rugby sevens, taekwondo, weightlifting, volleyball, beach volleyball, sailing and va'a. The game's slogan is Pacifica Lena, Pacifica Peia, that translates as the Pacific, otherwise simply the Pacific. The logo is also representative of the 3 kingdoms of Wallace and Futuna, Uvea, Alo and Singave, and the game's mascot is a pelikula or lizard named Faiva Toa. Niue has 2 athletes at the Games, Janam Hopotoa competing in shot put and the javelin, while Danny Nimani will compete in weightlifting. According to Team Niue, it is very hot in Wallace and Futuna, but they're looking forward to competing. Janam Hopotoa will be competing on Thursday and Friday, but for now, training and preparations are ongoing. Danny Nimani will be competing in weightlifting that will be held from the 3rd to the 5th of September, with 15 men and 13 women vying for the title. We wish Team Niue all the best. In true wet weather competition, the last game of the 15-a-side rugby was played last Saturday between Hakupu and Alufimako. Even though it was raining heavily throughout the night and much of the day, the 2 managers of each of the teams decided the game must go on. The first half was pretty much even for both teams, with Alufi scoring the only penalty, putting Alufi ahead with 3 points at the end of the first half. The second half saw Hakupu come back with a try, but they failed to convert it. So the score remained 5 for Hakupu and 3 for Alufi, until very close to the end of the game when Alufi had a penalty but failed to convert it to points. So Hakupu came out winners with 5 points to Alufi's 3. The game was controlled by referee Hakimoto Lofoli, and the sidelines were controlled by Tom Misikea and Charles Ioane. Even the wet weather did not deter a good number of spectators that flocked to Paliasi to watch the last game of the 15 rugby series. The prize giving was held at the Alufi clubhouse after the game, and first prize and winner of this year's 15-a-side rugby series goes to Alufi Makos with 8 points, with Tuapa and Hakupu each getting 6 points. The winner, Alufi Makos, takes away $800 in prize money, Tuapa $500 and Hakupu $200. That concludes our news bulletin for this evening.